Attorney Sharifa Tharpe. I'm here live to take your U.S. immigration related questions. Go ahead and put your questions in the comments now so I may answer your questions. Tonight, I'm going to make this a quick live, but I want to answer your questions. So go ahead and start putting your question. I'm going to only focus on questions tonight since we have a short live. If you have any questions about options, available options for protection from deportation, now is the time to ask those questions. So we do have, as you're putting your questions in, let me just tell you what's going on now. So here's some good news is that a judge in Maryland has put basically restricted ICE from doing any kind of ICE enforcement in certain places of worship. So the Quaker group had sued in Maryland to block ICE from entering their places of worship. And so the judge has put that block on there, but only for those who are only those who have been who are suing. So this is not a national block on ICE. However, there are about 2 dozen more religious groups that are suing, and the Denver School District is suing as well. And so we're going to see what happens there. We could start to see federal judges put blocks on the ICE enforcement across the country where they're having lawsuits. So we'll have to see what happens there. That's the good news. But of course, we do have additional news, and that is those who were on TPS. So this is where a lot of people voted for Trump, saying he's only going for the bad ones. He's only going for the bad immigrants. He's only going for the criminals. Well, what's happening now is he's also attacking legal immigration. So, in a way, it's as if there's many people are vulnerable right now. So he has ended TPS for Haitians and as well as for Venezuelans. So we're looking at hundreds of thousands of legal immigrants that are now going to be up for deportation if they do not find other options to pursue. So this goes to show that there are other options, and that's where you need to make sure that you evaluate it. So if you were on TPS, you're worried about what's going to happen with your TPS status, now is the time to make sure you get in touch with us. There are multiple options that we can look at. And keep in mind that employment-based immigration is very strict in regards to whether you overstay, whether you can maintain your status while you apply for adjustment of status. But there is a very valuable exception that you need to know about. So if you do not have your papers, your visa expired, you came, your visa expired, you got TPS, you're even maybe going for asylum, and since you've been here, since your entry into the United States, you have not accrued more than 180 days of unlawful presence. That means you've not been out of status for more than 180 days, and an employer wants a petition for you, or you want to go through the national interest waiver, then employment may be an option for you. Keep in mind, the reason that is say you came in, you came in legally, not across the border, but you came in legally, or you can show you've been paroled into the country. And at the point you were paroled, or that you got TPS, or you got you filed for the asylum, it stops any kind of unlawful presence from accruing. That means it stops the clock on how much time it's showing that you have been, if there are going to be any. So after 180 days is when unlawful presence accrues. That's when you're going to face a 3-year bar. right? And as long as you don't go beyond, you did not go beyond the 180 days before you got TPS, before you applied for asylum, before you got DACA, then you would be able to apply for this valuable this way of moving forward through the employment-based process. It's under Section 245K, and it is one of the limited exceptions here. So if you've listened to what I've described, you feel like this could be an option for you, keep in mind you still have to have an employer sponsor you. And the employer, if the employer is going to be the one who wants to sponsor you, I really do need to work with the employer, or the employer needs to have their own lawyer, and I work with you through the adjustment of status. But if you're really looking at the working part of this, the employer has to be 90% involved in your process to petition for you if you meet the standards and the requirements under Section 245K. So get in touch with us. That's just one option. If you have TPS, if you have status, and right after your entry and the time you got status, you never were out of status for more than 180 days. So keep that one in mind. All right. So now I'm going to go ahead and answer questions. So put those questions in the comments. I'm only focusing on your questions tonight. After receiving prima facie, what's next? How long to get your work permit? So about 6 to 12 months to get your work permit. The prima facie usually comes between 2 to 6 months after filing. What can I do if my employer refuses to pay me? Get in touch with us. That's the first thing. You may be able to get relief if an employer refuses to pay you. That's definitely a red flag that they're mistreating you. They're making you do work without being paid. So I would want to talk to you for sure to see if you can qualify for what's called T status. That's one of the options. On B2, what is better to do, an extension or go out and in? So if I wouldn't be able to answer this question just because it depends on your facts here. Usually it's not a great idea to leave the country on a B2 to come back in and stay, especially now, because what they are seeing, they are going to pick up on that pattern. You just left. They're probably going to say you just left on a B2, which is a temporary visa. Why did you leave to come right back? So I don't know what your situation is and why you'd want to do that, but this is where you need to make sure you get legal advice. How long does USCIS issue interview mail out for naturalization after biometrics is waived? So I would say anywhere from 2 to 6 months. After receiving prima facie, what's next? I answered that. Came through marriage, has a 10-year green card, and will be qualified for citizenship. Get on it right away because a lot of things are happening. You want to just get your citizenship so you can rest easy. Can you tell me what year NVC is at the filing process for F1? You'd have to go to the National Visa Bulletin for that. How long do you think it's a good time to get an ITIN number? So getting an ITIN number, you're complying with the law. You are not breaking any laws by getting the ITIN number. And getting an ITIN number, filing your taxes, paying your taxes can actually be beneficial to you. If you ever have to defend yourself against deportation, they can view this as a sign of good moral character. In some cases, you can use it to show continuous presence. You can use it to show good moral character. I really don't, while I would have to speak with you to see what your risk factors are, um, I would never tell you to not comply with the law, because the ITIN number is there to allow you to comply with the law to pay your taxes. And that's what many undocumented immigrants are doing. They're paying their taxes, and that's the law. The law says here, the way the IRS law says, the IRS, if you are here in the United States, doesn't matter about your immigration status, if you've been here for a certain amount of time, you are required to pay taxes as a tax resident, right? So the way they look at it in immigration is different than the way the IRS looks at it. And the IRS looks at it this way: if you're here in the US, you're not paying your taxes, but you're residing here, that can actually make you vulnerable to possibly IRS investigation, right? They could come after you for taxes. So I would say, if I had to choose between complying with the law and setting a good example and making sure you're doing all the right things, you should be going down that road. And I know it's a scary time. If you're having questions, you're really concerned, you definitely need to talk to an attorney. We do help our clients to get the ITIN number as well, to help them to comply with tax laws. So you can always give us a call and talk to us directly. If you have facts and truth, what is the chance of success rate at BIA, asylum? So anytime you're appealing a case, it really comes down to what are the issues you're appealing, and what's the likelihood of success on those issues. So I would not be able to tell you unless I'm looking at your facts and looking at where you are in the case. I want to travel out of the country on my 48 months extension. Is that okay? I have nothing unlawful. I wouldn't be able to confirm that for you. Right now, we are seeing a pattern where they are scrutinizing those who have their green cards, who are traveling. So you may find yourself in secondary inspection where they're going to take some time. It could be 20 minutes, it could be 2 hours, where they're going to review your background. If and what has been happening is, if they find a criminal record, if they find that you're in immigration court, if they find that you have maybe left the country for a long period of time and you're coming back after more than 6 months, for example, they can actually then refer you to immigration court for deportation. And keep in mind, if you're at the airport, do not sign anything that they give you, because there is a special form that if you're presented with that form and you sign it, you might be surrendering your green card. So never sign any documents until you speak with an attorney. Do not sign, and that's your right. So what I would say here is, you want to travel on your 48 month extension, you have to be very careful right now, and it depends on what's going on. Like, some people have an extension, but they're going through removal proceedings. What we're hearing is that is turning into a very bad situation. People are being green card holders are being turned around, or they are being detained if they are going through immigration proceedings. So be very careful. If you can, avoid travel until you sort through your matter. If you overstayed, can you be deported? Yes, absolutely. Yes. So keep in mind, overstayed, came through the border, it's the same thing. It's called being undocumented here. And you will be targeted. So don't think if you've overstayed your visa, you are in as much risk as someone who came through the border. And we are seeing that. We're seeing that where, if you don't have your current papers to show and you encounter ICE, they are likely to take you in. Thank you so much for the gifts. I appreciate it. Thanks for the follow. I appreciate it. All right. So I am on YouTube. I'm going to answer questions here. Please keep putting the questions in the comments. I'm going to get to Instagram soon. I'm on YouTube now, so put the questions in the comments. Can someone get sorted out if they overstayed? Yes. Absolutely. I work with clients who have gone from overstaying to having their papers here, their work permit, permission to be here, their green card. Absolutely. But you have to take the steps to get evaluated. We do the evaluation. So make sure you call us so we can do an initial evaluation. So the initial evaluation reviews whether you qualify to work with us, because we want to make sure we're not wasting your time and money. And then once we can get past that stage, we schedule time to actually talk through how we can approach your case, focus on strategy here. Hello there. Is DACA a legal status? That's a good question. And no, it's not considered a legal status. So it's considered sort of like permission to be here, a form of deferred action, which means it's just saying you have permission to be here, but no, you don't have an official status here. Hi there, Travis. Um, Have you heard about parolees not being able to adjust status under the new administration? No, if you do have the right parole, right, you were paroled based on humanitarian grounds, then you would be able, it depends on the type of parole, because some paroles, you're not, it's not admission into the United States, but there are some that does allow you to adjust status. It just depends on which one you've been given. So for example, the with the parole that Biden had implemented, the ones that were granted to Venezuelans and Haitians, that one was not a type of parole that would allow them to adjust status, right? But you do have a type of parole that if it's granted, you would be able to adjust status here. Um, And it depends. So I would say here, so Haitian with parole from Biden, can they adjust status? No. That's where we need to talk to each person to figure out what kind of parole did you get, how did you enter the country, and then we'll be able to advise whether it's possible. What will happen to a parolee that has an asylum pending? No. So with a pending asylum, it means that you have another path, and that can help to reduce the possibility of you being detained as well, and you would not be immediately deported because you have and as long as you qualify for the asylum, you followed the process right, then that means that you're pursuing another path, another chance to get legal status and continue to be here on legal status. Hi there, Mike. All right, I'm on Instagram now. Can I apply for green card if I'm on an H-2B visa for 2 years? It may be possible, but it depends on how do you qualify? Do you qualify through a spouse? Do you qualify through VAWA? Do you qualify through employer? We would have to find that out to advise further. My wife applied for her brother in 2015. Do you know how long it will take to finish everything? You'd have to look at the National Visa Center visa bulletin to get an idea. But from the date of filing to present at this time is taking 14 years. If you came through the border and you have a work permit and social through asylum, but you're going through court proceedings, can ICE detain you the same way? It's possible. Keep in mind that what ICE has stated on this is that they're going to be evaluating on a case by case basis. So if you apply for a humanitarian relief and they encounter you, they are going to still evaluate whether they should release you, and it's going to be at their discretion, but they're not outright saying under the Biden administration, the ICE policy was we are going to err on the side that if you have a pending asylum, you have a pending T, or you are victim-based application like VAWA, they are likely to release you. However, in this case, they're not saying, they are saying just like everything else, just like everybody else, they're saying, we're not going to say yes, we're not going to say no. This is really on a case by case basis after we review your case. But what I would say, you have the strongest chance having a receipt notice, and also, but the strongest chance having a bona fide determination letter or prima facie, because that is, they would look at that as a type of approval for an immigration benefit. Even though it's not your work permit yet, they would still look at it as a type of affirmative approval that indicates how strong your case is. Um, so someone who has a green card and does nothing wrong can be deported? No, no. You're fine. You're safe. We're concerned about anybody who has their green card who they're concerned about certain things in their background, if it's a criminal charge, or if you're applying for the 2 year to the 10 year, maybe you're in a situation where you don't have your spouse to apply for you, which we help our clients to make that transition from 2 year to 10 year, even without your spouse. So that's where we're concerned. And those who have been moved into immigration court, what happens is those who have 2 years and they're applying for the 10 year, if you fail to apply on time for your 10 year, or you get denied based on the application you submit to USCIS, they will forward your case to an immigration judge who's going to do another review of your case. It's so important to make sure, one, you avoid getting it in court. The way you're going to do that is don't make any mistakes. There's no room for errors with this administration and with this I-751 process. Because when you do apply, if you apply late, they rarely take any excuses for why it's late, and they will forward it automatically to immigration court for you to defend against deportation. So one is to make sure that you are looking at how you're going to apply well before the expiration date. If you do not have your spouse present to apply with you, maybe they are divorcing you, maybe they mistreated you, maybe they passed away, maybe they ghosted you. In those cases, you can still apply on your own. So important for you to get on that. And you can, if you got your 2 year green card yesterday and your spouse left you today, you can actually get a head start on applying for your 10 year through a waiver process without your spouse. So you can actually start to prepare. And we've done that for our client, and our client got their green card way before processing times. Usually processing times is 4 years now. Our client got it within a year after we applied for hers, because she got ahead, and she had an advantage because she started to apply as soon as she realized that her spouse was mistreating her, and she had a way to apply on her own. My son filed for me in June, but I submit my I-485 in August. How long you think it will take for me to get the green card? So it should be taking a year, but keep in mind that we're going to be seeing interviews coming again, so it might be a while after the interview. How about travel on domestic flight without status? I would recommend if you're doing that, you are increasing your chance of being detained. The airport is ripe with ICE enforcement officers and immigration officers who are now probably being trained to sort through issues that or identify people who don't have their status. So I would say the risk is very high right now to travel domestically. Now, if you have to travel domestically, there are going to be modes of transportation that are going to be more risky than others. For example, public transportation. Those are fair game, like the bus. So the bus might be, planes might be, um, trains might also be subject to ICE enforcement. If you file through VAWA with your children as derivatives and prima facie has been determined, can they deport you? So keep in mind you're applying for residence, so it wouldn't be citizenship. Don't confuse the two. The reason I'm saying that is because if you ever put in on any of your documents that you're a U.S. citizen, then that can be big trouble for you. So you're applying for residency through VAWA with your children, and prima facie has been determined. Can they deport you with a prima facie letter? You do have a better chance at defending yourself against deportation and also arguing against detention. So, with this administration, what I would say is we've all realized here that there are no guarantees with them. However, there are rights that are not based in their discretion, but it's based in law, and they have to follow the law. And the law says that you are entitled to certain forms of relief if you qualify for it. And that's the one thing they cannot do. They cannot just say no because they don't want to. But if you never go for these forms of relief, you will never be able to. You will be a sitting vulnerable duck, right? You will never reach there. Instead, you would have more of a likelihood of removal. So this is where I say um, having a process gives you a fighting chance, more than a fighting chance, because it can stop you from being detained because now you're presenting to the officer that you have a prima facie, for example. Even if you are in court, now you can present to the judge that you have a viable form of relief that you're pursuing, and that can convince the judge to allow you to dismiss the case or continue the case, meaning to put the case on pause until you can pursue your legal options, right? If you get detained and you have nothing like this in place, then that is going to be where it's going to be very hard, because at that point, things are moving very quickly. They're either subjecting you to expedited removal if you qualify for that, or they're keeping you detained. And at that point, it's hard for you to contact a lawyer to gather everything you need to get a great defense. I mean, a defense is possible, but it becomes a lot harder and tedious and stressful to get those things in line, getting an attorney on board, filing the documents. So make sure you're evaluating your options beforehand. Now, we do have the phone number. If you go to the profile page, you'll see the phone number, but also the link in the profile. Click on that. You will get to the website, call us, or fill out the form, and we'll be able to talk to you, evaluate your options. Our number is 24/7. During office hours is when we do the evaluation, but you can always call, give us your information so we can call you back during business hours. UVs are gonna take a while, but if you get into bona fide marriage, you can get your papers together as well. So do not give legal don't take legal advice from anybody on this platform. Please don't give any legal advice. Please allow people to get legal advice from a qualified attorney, because I think this is a part of the problem too with a lot of cases that go south is people get legal advice from village lawyers and not real lawyers. So please keep that in mind. It's okay to support each other, but please make sure you're getting legal advice directly from an attorney and not from just anybody. I have a question my mom put in my filing in 2020. How long before I can hear something? Um, so it depends on where your case is. How soon can individual who has done T visa biometrics receive their work permit? So we're hoping to start seeing work permits in about 3 to 6 months after they get the bona fide. What's happening is first the bona fide comes. The bona fide takes about 3 months, and then after, so 70 to 90 days, and then after the bona fide, then you would expect them to start processing the work permit. So that's the pattern that we're seeing right now. How long does it take to get an EAD for the U visa? About a year and a half after you've been granted bona fide determination. I have a temporary legal permanent resident stamp in my passport and I have no criminal record. I need to go back to my country in Jamaica for a week. Would I have issue returning back to the US? There you it depends on your background. That's where if you're really concerned, make sure you seek legal advice first. I wouldn't be able to tell you whether you're going to have an issue coming back. They may put you in secondary inspection because you have the I-551 stamp, which is the green card stamp in your passport. But I don't know your circumstances, and that is where I would have to get to the meat of the matter to determine whether you have some risk there. So I overstay my visa and I have domestic violence abuse situation, and the court said I should do a U visa, and LAP attorney said I should do asylum because he threatened. I'm so sorry. Give us a call because it sounds like you do have multiple options here. And now an ILAP attorney said I should do asylum because he threatened to kill me if I go back to Jamaica. So definitely give us a call and let's talk about all the facts here. The facts are going to be very important for us to understand which options could work for you. And you may even qualify for a T just depending on what your facts are. So definitely get in touch with us. Okay, let's say I get pulled over. Can I use my receipt receipt from my lawyer if someone should come across ICE? So, this with this, I am advising my clients because I know my clients, I know their facts, so I'm able to tell my clients what to do when it comes to the the police. So if the police or I stop you, you should really be exercising your right to remain silent. However, in certain circumstances, having your receipt notice along, so for example, you do have to show your identification in most instances when they ask you for, say, it's a traffic stop, or say ICE would like to see your identification as part of immigration um, process, and they're close to the border and they ask for your identification. You can show them the identification, and showing your receipt notice as part of your identification. So giving identification and receipt notice may be a good strategy because then they can identify, and police maybe would not know what that is. So the advice may be different for the police, but with ICE, they would immediately be able to identify that you do have a pending case, and they may use their discretion not to take you in, or it may come in handy later that they may release you. However, say you do that, you give, because you do have to give your ID, you give your ID, you give your receipt notice to show you have a pending case, and they start to ask you more in-depth questions. At that point, I would say don't exercise your right to remain silent. Don't answer any questions. You've given them what they need to identify who you are and that you have a possible pending case. And at that point, you should politely say to the officers that you need to speak to your lawyer, and you want to exercise your right to remain silent at that point. Then you can always check in with them whether you're free to leave. They'll definitely let you know if they're going to take you in or whether they're going to release you based on what you've presented to them. But keep in mind that this advice can be different just depending on what your circumstances are. And so this is where I'm very hesitant to be that specific about you need to give your receipt notice because I don't know what your facts are. And I can't give you personalized legal advice because of that. But one thing you should not forget is to exercise the right to remain silent. If they start to badger you with a bunch of questions outside of your identity, you need to shut it down, let them know that you want to remain silent until you, and then work on calling your attorney. They should be able to give you access to your attorney. So you can call the attorney and ask the attorney how you should address this. And then the attorney might be able to contact them directly and explain the situation as well. How long does it take to get EAD for when you file T visas? I answered that. Keep in mind that they have a bona fide determination process. They do give the bona fide about 70 to 90 days after, and then the work permit comes after that. So we could be looking at another 3 to 6 months additional. However, under this Trump administration, what they may do is change the policy. So we haven't seen that yet, but keep in mind mark my words, they're working on those changes. So changes are coming, and that may go. And what we may see come back are where you have to wait until it's actually approved before you get the EAD, which you might be looking at 12 months to 18 months. But here's another, doozy. Is processing times will undoubtedly get longer under this administration. They have fired 400 Homeland Security agents, including 20 immigration judges. So that alone tells you they were already short-handed, right? They already did not have enough people to be able to process all these applications. Just asylum alone is at 3.5 million. And they are about to kick more people into the asylum arena and removal arena because they have just terminated TPS for Haitian immigrants and Venezuelan immigrants, and I'm sure there's more to come. So we're going to see people who came here legally being thrown into undocumented status and subjected. All those people will be subjected to removal. So it's pretty scary what's happening right now. That's what's happening. So we might see longer processing times with everything, including the T visa, because we don't have enough people. All right, I'm gonna go over one more time and see if I can answer. I-601 still getting approved. So I-601 still processing. Everything is still moving. We're getting receipt notices. We're getting bona fide determination letters. We're getting work permits. So everything is still moving forward. But as I see the changes coming, I'm definitely gonna let you know. I got engaged last year, July, to my fiance, US citizen in Fort Lauderdale. I am from the Caribbean. What do you think is the best route to move permanently to the US? So, through your US citizen fiance, you could either get married or you could do the fiance visa. If you're living outside of the US, you can get the fiance visa. The fiance visa can take anywhere um, from I would say a year and a half to 2 years. So it is kind of long. At the marriage base is the same thing. So um, What if you get a denial last February 2024? Your lawyer refiled for you 1 year. Do you have a chance to get an interview notice? So interviews are coming back. So I'm not sure what kind of case you're referring to. I don't know if this is a marriage-based case, but interviews are coming back for the most part. So you can count on an interview if it is a case type that warrants interviews. I have a visa T pending that was submitted back in summer 2024. I've done my biometrics in September 2024. What can I do to keep from being deported if I get stopped? I'm in good shape. Um, so if as I said before, being able to have the process in place gives you the ability to show that you have legal protections, you have pending legal protections. But keep in mind that um, my advice is going to be different just based on your facts. But what I would say is make sure you exercise your right to remain silent. If you do have documents like a bona fide determination letter, make sure you carry that with you and present it along with your identification. Or if you have your receipt notice, or you have an approval notice, make sure you present it with your identification. But if they start to badger you, start to ask any other questions, start making sure you exercise your right to remain silent until you can speak with your attorney and your attorney can advise on next steps. So very important though, you think about your rights in this case, and you exercise those rights. However, if you do have an advantage, like a bona fide determination letter or a prima facie, I would say treat it like your identification, have it with you at all times. So if it's an ICE person that needs your identification, you can present it as part of your identification. Um, Please, how long does it take for biometrics after USCIS received your application and sent your receipt notice? So I would say anywhere from 6 weeks to 6 to 8 weeks for biometrics. Is it safe to file your paperwork in Florida if you're undocumented? Yes. It is. Now, Florida is not a safe place, but you can not file your papers if you qualify, and Florida is not stopping people from applying for their papers. However, if you are entering the United States undocumented after entering the country illegally, that means you snuck across the border, then you're at risk. But here's what I say: everybody's at risk in Florida because oftentimes, the police officers have a hard time distinguishing between someone who's out of status and someone who crossed the border without permission. Is it safe? So I answered that. What's considered good reason to give if you want to apply for a green card early after T visa approval? So there really isn't that process. Applying early is not, there's no real reason. The process that we follow is we ask for permission from the Department of Justice. And once we get that letter authorizing early adjustment of status, we move forward with it. So can someone sort themselves out without having to marry? Yes, we do this for our clients. So let's evaluate those options for you. Want to marry genuine, but my other lives in Florida. Can I get married to him in NJ? You can get married anywhere you want to. So just keep in mind the safety of the states. Is it safe for you to travel into Florida? Is it just think about the risk factors and safety, but there's nothing that says you can't get married in one state or the other. How long does it take to get work permit if I got bona fide letter from T visa this month? I would say we're still evaluating because not many work permits have come through that yet. but because first they're issuing the bona fide determination letter and then they process for the work permit. So I would say about 3 to 6 months after the bona fide determination letter. All right. Good evening. After you send your medical, how long to get the green card? So I've seen it in about 2 months. I've seen it anywhere from 4 weeks to 2 months. Good evening. After you send your medical, so I answered that. How long to get my green card after card was mailed out by USCIS? I would say a week. My VAWA was transferred to NBC after 32 months. What does it mean? So they are transferring to different locations to help with the workload. So maybe it's on the move. I got RFE before I went for my biometrics. Is it safe to go? I'd have to understand what the RFE is. If the RFE is something really simple, you may not have anything to be concerned about. But what are they asking about? Are they asking about an arrest? That's where we'd really have to understand your facts to advise here. How long to get green card after card was mailed? Oh, to answer that. How long is I-130 taking to be processed? So 9 to 12 months if you're the immediate relative of a U.S. citizen. If you're in other categories, it might be longer. So, is it safe to leave the country with a refugee travel document? It depends on your facts. Frankly, I would discourage travel if possible, but it depends on your circumstances too. Can I travel with advanced parole T? So yes, you can apply for advanced parole under the T, but keep in mind that this may raise issues for you at the green card stage. So you have to be very careful about that. What if the 2-year green card ghosted you while 751 is pending? Then you need to get on this ASAP. Need to get on it ASAP and get help with applying for a waiver, because if you stay like this without taking action, the action that you need to apply on your own, they will deny you and refer you to immigration court where you're defending against deportation. It gets a lot more complex. So you want to make sure that you are on top of that. Give us a call. That's exactly what we help our clients with. If my US husband has a drug felony, can he sponsor me for my residency if I have DACA? It's still possible, yes, as long as the drug felony did not involve a minor. My VAWA was transferred to NBC, so I answered that. Thanks for the follow. I have individual in August. I need a lawyer. Give us a call. Let's talk. Um, my husband applied for my I-130 visa, still waiting. It's 18 months. So yeah, it just depends. I don't know what category you're in, if you're the immediate relative of a US citizen or if you're the spouse of a green card holder. But I know based on my experience, I'd say 9 to 12 months, but it could get longer just depending on what your circumstances are. Where is the office located? We're located in Delray Beach. We also have a location in Boca Raton. Um, but we represent clients in all 50 states and the globe. Do you recommend doing advanced parole? You can apply for the travel document just in case, but I'm going to be a lot more conservative on traveling, recommending any travel. If you get deported, but you're married to a US citizen and never filed for green card, can you return? No. So get in touch with me. If you get deported, then chances are you're going to be barred for at least 10 years. So you don't want it to get that far. If you're married to a US citizen, my next logical question is usually, how come you haven't filed? If your spouse really has your best interest at heart, How come they haven't filed for you? Sometimes that indicates that there's mistreatment. Is there mistreatment going on? If so, you may very well qualify to apply on your own without that spouse in a confidential process. So here's why I say get in touch with us. Let's talk to you about potential options. If your spouse is not helping you to achieve, your immigration goals here, are they still issuing asylum-based EADs on proper time? Yes, so far it's the same. All right. So that's going to be it for me tonight. Thanks everybody for your time. I really appreciate it. I will be back tomorrow. So what I say is things are moving at such a fast pace. I don't have a specific time right now. I've been coming on late, but maybe I'll have time in the day at lunchtime to talk. So like, subscribe, follow. And as soon as you see me come online, you join me if you have the time, and then we can, you can send your questions. I can give you updates. So just go ahead and do that, and hit the notification bell on YouTube. And then also, we don't know what's going to happen with TikTok in about a month or two. So make sure you go and follow me on TikTok, follow me on the other platforms. I'm Immigration Lawyer Sharifa on Instagram. I'm getting the green card on YouTube, getting the green card, all one word, on YouTube. That's a channel. And also ST Law Office on Facebook. So find me on any one of those platforms, because I'm on all the platforms. So that means that you'll be able to get the same information. If TikTok goes dark, then you'll be able to get the same information on other platforms. And I also release longer form videos on YouTube in addition to playback. So we have live playbacks, but I also do long form videos with more detailed information. I know I've just did videos on the interview process, how to prepare for it, protections for individuals who are now losing their papers, losing their status. That's coming down the pipeline. So join me on YouTube, because that's where you'll get additional information and content. Thanks again, everybody. Have a great night, and just hang on. Okay, we're gonna focus on positivity. You're doing the right thing, you're following the law, you're a good person, you have faith, and that's important here. We use that power to focus on solutions, and that's why I'm here. So you need our help, just give us a call. We're just a phone call away. We're 24/7. Give us a call, and then we can take it from there. Have a good one. Bye-bye.